Hello, I'm Paul Bartlett, a wood turner here in Southwest Florida. Mostly do segmented work. I got another project going here. I'm not sure if we could call it segmented or not, but it's made from many leftover segmented pieces. And here in the box, I don't know if you can see these, but they're just a whole box full of pieces left over from different jobs. I did some NASCAR vessels that had this in them. At one time I was going to kind of mass produce them, but never did, so I had a lot of pieces. Have some other pieces here which are hashtags, which I did a hashtag lamp and a few other pieces with it in it. And then just miscellaneous pieces from other projects I've done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour them all into this bucket and fill it with epoxy, some colored epoxy. And then I'm going to core out as many bowls as I can get from the whole large mass. So here we go. I'm going to pour all of these into the bucket. I have one on the bottom that I just hot glued in there. Hopefully just to, so it should be in the bottom of the largest bowl. Keep it in place. Try to do this where you can see it. This all started, I was cleaning out my woodshed. I had all these boxes of pieces and everything, and I got looking and I realized I had so many, and I came up with this idea. So we're going to see how it works. I'm going to try to stick some of these in strategic places. I'm not sure, just get them close, so maybe I'll have some in each bowl. So just kind of gonna stick it down in there like that. Maybe like that. There's another little one that was a failed experiment I had, so I throw that in there too. Okay, I'm going to mix up my epoxy now, and we'll get back when I'm ready to pour. Okay, I have my epoxies mixed up here, and I'm ready to pour. What I've done is I've got I don't know if you can see these or not. Turn this camera down a little bit. Okay, I have a blue and a white, And I'm going to pour into a third container so that I pour them both colors at the same time. It's a pearl white. See how it looks. I've used it before. I think it'll look all right. So there, I poured that in there. Now I'm going to just pour it in here. Don't know how much I'm going to need, so we'll just probably a lot more than I think. Okay, I thought I'd need more than that, but I didn't want to mix too much up ahead of time, so I'm going to stop, mix up what I have left here right now, and hopefully that's enough. If not, we'll have to use some. We'll have to put it in the pressure pot, let it set, and then because I don't have any more of the same kind, do the last batch later. So. Okay, I'm able to release it by just tapping around that and tapping on the bottom, and it came right out of there. And so it looks interesting. I have a black line going around here. That just came from where I marked the height of my bucket where I wanted to cut it. So that'll turn away. Hopefully there won't be too many voids in here when we start turning it. I know I'm going to have to clean this face off and get all of that foam out of there. I don't like that. That's what you get, I guess, when you buy cheaper epoxy. So we'll see what happens. I want to let it set for a day or two and let it cure some more. I'll put a block on there and we'll put it on the lathe and start coring it out, cleaning it up, coring it out. See what I get out of it. Okay, I have my blank all trued up on the outside and cleaned up on the face, and I've laid out where I want each bowl to be. This will be my bowl number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. My coring system, all I have is the 9-inch coring cutter. It's a one-way or a one-way coring system, and all I have is the 9-inch cutter. Been better if I had the other ones, but they're quite expensive, so I wanted to see how many bowls I can get out of this blank with just the one cutter. And this is probably a little unconventional, but we're going to see what happens anyway. I've mounted my blank here. As you can see, all the pieces showing through there. And I've mounted it on a waste block and then on a 6-inch faceplate with all the screws in it. And this is a good, strong epoxy joint. So we're going to see what happens. I'm going to try to core this out. And let me set the camera up on the tripod here. Alright, I'm briefly going to try to explain just how I came up with this and the depths, because when you change, your depth changes, but I don't want to get the bottoms too thin or too thick. And I did just a small CAD layout. I'm not sure if you can see this or not. Okay, here's the dark space is the cutter width, which is 3/8 of an inch. And what I did was I laid out the lines on my layout here and the depths that I wanted here. And all I do is move my cutter. And here's the distance, the center line of my cutter, which is right here, will be away from the blank for each cut. So it's like almost 7/8 for 1 inch and 3/4, 2 1/2, and 3 1/8 is for the different ones. And how I came about that was I had these lines drawn on there and the depths drawn on there, and I just made a circle. That circle would intersect this point and this point, the outside points of where my cutter is, and the circle represented the diameter of the outside of my cutter, which is 10 inches. So I'd make that circle, intersect those 2 points, and then mark the center point of the circle for each bowl. So there's one center point there, another one, another one, another one. And it's probably confusing. I don't even know if you can see this, but that's how I did it. And it's probably not recommended, but when you're trying to get a lot of bowls with only one cutter, we're going to see how it works. Also, I've never cored out an epoxy blank. That may be another interesting thing all in itself. So here we go. What I've got right now is, this is my system, and I'm gonna core from the inside out, so I don't have to remount all these small ones. And I'm gonna put my cutter, as you can see right here on the inside bowl. This inside bowl is going to be very small, maybe nothing more than an ashtray, or who knows, maybe it won't be anything at all, but it's a good point. So anyway, I know that I have my cutter in position here, and from my the layout, I know that I need to be like 3 1/8 inches from the face of this to the center point to my pivot point. So it's got to be 3 1/8. So this would be coming out way out here like this. That's 3 1/8, and then I got to move it over here. Okay, a little more out. These numbers aren't exact, but if you get them somewhere close, I think it'll be all right. And okay, that looks good. And as a result, because my pivot point is way over here, my bowl is not going to have a, it's going to have a true curve, but it's not going to be a 90-degree curve. So the bowl is going to look, instead of like this, it's going to look more, my bowls, some bowls are going to look more like that. And I'll have to address that, you know, cut the bottoms off and reshape them a little bit maybe to see, but it's the way I wanted to do it, and we're going to find out if it's right or wrong. I'll tighten this down now. And my cutter in there, I can't, it doesn't look too bad, but I may have to stop and sharpen things here, I'm not sure, so let's see what happens. Oops. I gotta put my handle on here, very important part. Now it'll work better. So let's see what's going to happen. Got about 500 speed, thereabouts, when we start out. Not putting a lot of pressure, just kind of letting it cut itself. Epoxy gets hot when you turn it, so I bring it back and let it cool a little bit. Okay, bowl one. Whoops. Okay, had a little piece chip off there. That wasn't going to be much of a bowl anyway, so we can always epoxy that back on somehow. But anyway, we got the center of my second bowl poured out. I think I'm just going to go in here and maybe I'll put a light on this, help you see it a little bit. That kind of broke out right at one of the pieces of wood there, so we'll see if I can clean that up. Alright, I didn't put my support knife in there. I didn't think I needed it for that one. So I'm trying to keep the wall thickness of a 1/2 inch here. I think I got a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch, and then I went to 5/8 on the big one. I'm hoping 5/8 is going to be enough. So I'm going to reset for the second cut. Oh, I should have done that one first. So my second cut is going to be about here. Okay. And for my second cut, the pivot point needs to be 2.4 out. So we're going to have, boy, that looks very close there. Oops. That's right there. And whoops. Okay. So I'll tighten that up. Okay, a little double check here, 2.4, and that is 1, 2, that's close enough. Now let's try some more here. pretty good for my 1/2 inch wall thickness. I think I can see why you need the different size cutters now. There. Okay. Maybe we'll only get 3 balls out of this, because, although I can fix that, there's a broke out on the center. You're all seeing this for first time, just like me, what to do, what not to do. I'm going to clean that out of there. Maybe I can save that piece. Okay. Now, I got the piece. Who knows, maybe a little colored epoxy and whatnot. Well, you want to remember what you see in here. We'll see what happens in the final stages when I'm putting all these things back together again. So. My bowl thickness on this one, I was trying to go for 1/2 inch, and I only got like 1/4 of an inch, so that's kind of where I wanted to end up, but the epoxy, you can go pretty thin, so we'll see. Okay, we're going to set up, try number 3. And you can see where I misjudged it a little bit there. Okay. I'm going to try there. Alright, for the number 3, it says it's 1.7 inches away, and that might work right there. I'm going to get this one's probably going to be thicker, but I guess it's better thicker than thin. It seems to be coring all right. That's better than I expected for coring, so.
That was a nice surprise.
So anyway, I got it set up here, and we'll see how this one goes. That's looking good. I think I'll try to put in the support now. Okay, so we're going to be able to use it out here. The inner two, it was just, diameter was too small and this is too wide. It wasn't going to work. Not like I could have done an experimental one before I did a video, because I have almost 1.5 gallons epoxy in here, and that's not cheap. Okay, I'll move the support in a little bit. You can feel it start to jump, chatter just a little bit when you get too far out over the support bar. Oops. Move that whole thing a little bit. Make a fine adjustment here. Just like that. Always keep that around for very fine adjustments. May need to tighten this up. Yeah. Okay. Wonder if there's something else I could put in there to get on center. Maybe this one. Maybe that'll work. Oh yeah. I'm a little worried about these big bowls flying out of there, and nothing happens until they hit the ground, and then it happens. Okay, let's see where we're going. You can't really pop those out of there like you can wood because the epoxy is too flexible and something's going to break somewhere else. See if I can move this in a little more. Oh wow, yeah. That's about ready to come out of there, I think. There it is. That's a better way to do it. Okay, that's what I've been looking for there. There's one that will work out okay, hopefully. Okay, I'm going to have to come almost 90 degrees with this cut because this is the full 9 inches. So I'll move this in some more. As far as that'll go. Almost there. Okay, see what happened to that one when it hit the ground. All right, nice. Epoxy's pretty rugged stuff, really. I got a pretty thick wall on that one, so it gives me a little bit of design opportunity there. Now this last bowl is really can't do anything of the coring thing, because no matter where I go now, I'm from this edge to the bottom here is as deep as I go. So if I try to take another one on the outside here, it'll the bottom will be gone. So I'm going to have to, this outside one is going to be done by hand. I got a whole lot of thickness to work with, so I'm pretty happy with how this all turned out at this point. So I'm going to come back when I have some more to show you. Okay, after thinking about it, I'm going to try to, I've moved my cutter out here, and I'm going to try to take a part of this. I've got a lot of thickness in here, and I don't want to waste any, so I'm going to try to use the cutter and take it in. I can't go all the way 90 degrees, because then I will lose my bottom. So I'm going to see how far I can go with it. I don't know how this is going to work, but otherwise I have to turn all of that much material out of there, and I would rather not do that. So let's see what happens here. Okay, I've got them all turned and putting a first coat of epoxy on them. With all the bare wood, it really needs to have a coating. So I'm going to probably just put 3 coats on here and treat it just like it was an all wood piece. Kind of the bright light kind of messes up the video here, but I'll just give you a peek in behind here. Okay. There's my back of my slow turners. Zoom in on one. There was lots of voids in here from the little pieces. They just end grain every which way, so there was a lot of tear out. I'm hoping this epoxy will fill things in and it won't be quite so noticeable. I mean, it looks good right here, so look inside. You'll be able to see through them. The light will show through most of them, which I think that's what I wanted. And, okay. All right. I have my bowls all turned, finished, sanded. I sanded them up to 120, and then I put them back on the slow turner, and I did 3 coats of finish epoxy. Now they look really quite well, but there's a few spots in them, and I put on heavy coats, but I needed to build up because when I turned it, there was a lot of raw wood exposed. So what I do now is I'm going to use a scraper and scrape off to kind of smooth out some of the little imperfections. And at the ridge here, it's a little bit thick where the epoxy kind of does a natural flow. So I'm going to do the inside and the outside with cabinet scrapers, and then sand them up to 3000 grit, starting with 120. So, and this would be the process you could do on any, it doesn't have to be an epoxy bowl like this. Any wood thing that's finished with epoxy, you would give it the 3 coats to get a nice build up, and then you will use cabinet scrapers, which I'll show you in a minute, to smooth everything out, take out the defects, and then you can bring it back up to a shine by just coming up through the grits to 3,000 to 5,000, and then maybe a little polish on top of that, and you'll have a perfect finished product. So I leave these supports on here, which pretty much centered, but for scraping they don't have to be perfect. So put that in there nice and tight. And the cabinet scrapers I use are just the cheap ones you buy. Usually buy a set. You get a like a French curve one and a couple of straight ones. And I've sanded or ground some of them to different shapes. I have quite a few of these, and so that's basically all I use. And to sharpen these, I don't sharpen them like a normal scraper, because what I do is I just flatten this one side out. You can do 2 sides at a time, this side and then maybe this side, flatten it out, and I go over on my disc sander, lay it down flat on the bed, and I usually have a 80 grit in there, and I just run it straight across one time, and it creates a very nice burr here. And then I use that. These are also flexible, so you can kind of meet the curve. You'll see. So here we go. Also do it at a very slow speed. I don't know, maybe I got 170 there. We'll see how it works. That may even be too fast. I'm going to go down to about 140. And you can see how this just takes it right off of there with no problem. When you do this scraping process, it's good to wait safely a couple of days before you take that new epoxy and do this with it. It just works better. If you get it before it's completely dry, you'll start tearing up and a rough surface. And you can feel some of the lumps in there. You can see how that's coming down there, shiny spots here, here, all up and through here. So I just keep going till I get no shiny spots. And the 3 coats that are on there is what allows me to do that. If you do come through again into the wood, it's not a big deal, but you may have to put more than one. You may have to put another coat on to cover that up. Feels pretty good. There's a couple spots there. So we'll take a little high in here. You don't want to stay on it for too long because it gets a little warm, softens it up. I think I'm going to go with that. Prefer not to come through into the bare wood now, so I think those few little shiny spots left will sand out of there. So I'm going to switch the camera now and let you see how I do the inside. Okay. For the inside, I've got a little bit bigger one of these. Seems to work good, and as you can see, you can find the curve somewhere along there. So I just do the same thing here. Alright, I've sanded this one up to 3000 inside and out. And it took me a half hour to 45 minutes, a little longer than I'd like, but now I'm going to put the Yorkshire grit, the fine grit on here and see what that'll do. But you can get an idea if it's shiny now, but I'm looking for that ultra high shine. And there's a few little scratches in it. Hopefully the grit I'm putting on here will take care of that. The instructions say to put it on a good coat of it on, and then turn the lathe on and use heavy pressure until it starts to go away and then lighten up and lighten up. So we'll try that. I'm going to switch over from a paper towel to a rag now and see what that helps. Okay, that brings the shine up pretty good. Got rid of most of my scratches. I won't say 100% of them, but alright. So I'm just going to do the same thing on the inside, and we'll make a determination whether it's good enough or not. So, see you back then. Okay, here's the bowl that I just finished up, sanded to 3000, and used the Yorkshire grit on it. So I'm going to show you 3 different phases that I've done. So this would be the first one with 3000 and then just the Yorkshire grit. And now this one here was 3000 Yorkshire grit and some turtle wax finish on it. Okay, and this one was the just off of the slow turner, nothing but the original 3 coats of epoxy on it. So there definitely is a difference. This one here is the shiniest, and this one is a little less shiny, and this one here is, I would guess, a little bit less. So guess it's up to the individual and what they're looking for. I would probably put some turtle wax polish on this one, and maybe all of them, so that they'll match. Okay, so there's the three of them, and I have three more. I actually got 6 bowls from this one turning. This bowl here was the one that I had showed you in the video where I went way to the outside and cored in part of the way as far as I dared to with a 9-inch cutter on a 10.5-inch diameter. And I ended up cutting it off in 2 pieces, one here, and this was the space between. And I epoxied those back together, and I ended up with a 6th bowl. So that was better than what I expected. I definitely, if I was going to try to get 6 good bowls, I would buy the 11-inch one-way coring cutter for more. If you had both of them, you would do pretty good. So that's it. Okay. These are the finished bowls. I ended up with 6 bowls. That's way more than I expected. And they all came out good. Remember the 2 little ones that I lost the bottom on? Well, you would never know it now. Epoxy's pretty easy stuff to finish. This is one that the bottom came out of, but looks good now. And this was the biggest, the main bowl. And as you saw in the video, this is the one that I got from the outside. And if you can see the area where I started, I ended up cutting it with a bandsaw. So I had 2 pieces. I had the top and the bottom, and I put them together, and I ended up with my 6th bowl. And they all look very good to me. So I'm very happy with how this came out. And so thank you for watching the video.